Hi, you are on. I'm going to move this in a little bit,
Ah,
like that.
I'm trying to get situated for me. Are you? But you're going to be where in the frame?
I'm going to be right there. Or I should be in the back. You
What,
should be
you
up
sit
in the front.
Just
Yeah, you
'cause
sit up in the front. You
you're
are the star.
you're taller.
Well, that's true. I am taller. I'm not sure what that means, but it is true.
Right. Well, if I'm sitting in the back.
So it seems to me like when people think about standard of care, that means, oh, this is standard of care. This is the same care everyone has. It's a standard. It's an average. Well, I don't think. What do you feel when you hear that standard of
Well,
care?
the first time I heard about standard of care, I didn't really kind of get it until I spent some time with the oncologist. And standard of care means average. And so basically what they're doing is giving and this is my opinion, a shotgun blast to everyone and hoping that that's going to work for whatever their type of disease is. And so standard of care could be like for a woman or a man, a mammogram. Standard of care in my cancer treatment was Ibrance. And, one of the things that I have an issue with is that if standard of care is a mammogram, we're going to go back to that one because that's the easiest one for people to understand. If standard of care is a mammogram and they have a PET scan and the PET scan can see you in 3D or whatever the technology they're using. Some hospitals have okay PET scans, but some have rock star PET scans. But the thing that I learned from my oncologist was that I was worried about, not having a mammogram or not having a colonoscopy. And she goes, "Oh, honey, don't worry about that. I see you in a PET scan." And I'm thinking to myself, don't worry about that. She's looking at me in a PET scan. So they know that they have the technology to look at you without causing you harm. A colonoscopy can be invasive. They could do nicks. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of a surgical nick. I know I had one in my bladder 20, maybe almost 30 years ago now. And a mammogram can cause an enormous amount of compression on the breast. And let's just say that, you do have cells in your breast that are cancerous. So wouldn't you think that that would be more trauma to that area? Whereas they have these big old machines that they can actually look at you. And
early, too.
right? And, they might say, well, that costs so much. Well, guess what? Doing everything until 6 months later and you get to go look at a PET scan cost a whole lot of money. And I don't know about you guys, but we pay a nice little chunk of change on insurance and stuff. So,
Right.
you should be able to have the better than standard of care if the
How
facility
old is standard of care?
I think the standard of care comes after the wars. I think that it is something that probably hasn't been readjusted in our generation for probably since the 1960s or 70s.
Right.
If colonoscopies and mammograms are still the thing, that's a pretty archaic kind of way to look at yourself nowadays. I mean, you have not only a PET scan, but you have sonograms that they can do. There's infrared scans. There's MRIs. There's CTs. There's all kinds of scans available that are not being utilized, and they only utilize them at the worst case scenario. Why wouldn't it be better to utilize them at early on?
Right. Early detection. Now, are those available if you request them? You're not just going to say, "Oh, okay, thank God you requested that."
No,
but you have to be a squeaky wheel.
This is what the challenge is. You have to go through all these Lipman tests before they give you the PET scan. And that should be something that should just be,
It should be first. Let's just say it. I think it should be first.
Absolutely. Or it could be when you turn 21, you get a baseline PET scan. And then when you turn 40, you get another baseline PET scan. And it's like, why wouldn't we have something like that that's proactive instead of reactive? You know, and they're going to make just the same amount of money. If you think about it, okay, well, let's say the PET scan cost, I don't know, we've paid one out of our pocket before, and it was like $6,000 in the beginning. And that's a lot, that's a hard pill to swallow, but it was important for us to see what was going on. And, you know, what if that's done in the beginning? What if, you know, it's done and you don't do another one for 20 years? And then that doctor can always go back and look at that baseline. So anyway, that's my food for thought on that.
It's just like taking a snapshot of your health at that moment. They do it with colonoscopies. It's interesting they don't do it with PET scans.
What, a
the colonoscopy, they say, well, you know, men at 40 should get a colonoscopy.
Right, but it's invasive.
No, I know, but it is at least it's sold as a preemptive measure.
Right, but my whole thing is that go ahead and do the PET scan first. Then if you need to scope and see more, then go and be invasive. It feels like we have it ass backwards in this country. You know, and this is whenever the tail is wagging the dog, or right? And kind of dictating things. And it really should be have a scan first, and then if, you know, a urologist or a, you know, breast doctor wants to look at it further, then, you know, figure out what other sort of scope they want to use.
Right. So standard of care, when a doctor uses the term, don't worry, we're using
this is standard of
care. Think of that as
placating
you, and also saying, well, don't. It's like if you travel, the standard of care is the seat way in the back next to the restroom. If you're happy to be in the seat way in the back next to the restroom, and I hope you're not with regard to your health, then you can say, well, no, I want a little better than standard of care. What about this? And you can't be vague with it. You have to say, what about a PET scan? What about a CT scan?
But the challenge is,
what about?
The challenge is that the insurance won't allow you. And that's where we've gotten into a huge hiccup in this.
Check that.
Yeah.
Keep talking.
This is where we've gotten a huge hiccup in the world, is that's whenever we're getting a wag the dog sort of scenario. The government and the FDA and the insurance companies should not have the protocol of what things are. We should be in the driver's seat along with our doctor. And I also feel that, you know, as, you know, right now we're revisiting cancer again. We dealt with it in 2019 and 2020 and turned it around. And then I, because of a race car accident, invited cancer back in. Got broken bones and trauma and stuff like that. I forgot where I was.
Because we believe it's opportunistic.
Mm-hmm. I forgot.
You forgot where you're going with that?
Yeah, sorry. Oh well.
Well, it's okay.
Yep.
So what you have to do is you have to be your own advocate. We're going to go back to that again. You have to be aware that there are other things, there are other tests, there are other procedures that they can do that are not as invasive, that are more telling. You know, that's one of the, and I tell you, we've been very fortunate. Through a ride with Bo, we met a wonderful surgeon in Florida. His name is Dr. Benati, the Benati Spine Institute. And he has a team of lawyers in place because what he does is not standard of care. What he does is excellent. And a lot of time, pardon me, I'm allergic to this time of year. Many times, insurance companies don't want to pay for something other than standard of care. Standard of care really is a term that says, hey, we've all covered our ass, basically.
It's like a shotgun blast. And, you know, you're not, I'm not, I shouldn't be treated the same way John is. John is, 6'2" and a male, and what, 6'3", and then his weight and my weight are totally different.
Right.
And it's just amazing to me that like they have a one bullet or a one magic pill.
One size fits all.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
it's
one
just
size does not fit all.
What standard of care is.
That should be the title of this episode. One size does not fit all.
Right.
Reason I brought up Dr. Benati is that he has a team of lawyers down there for when the insurance company says no, they intervene, which is terrific. And all the insurance companies are not bad, and the doctors are not bad, and standard of care is not bad. It's just not good enough.
Correct.
Okay, so when
At least
the
not
lawyers,
for the free world.
right? Well,
While we're
exactly.
still free.
So the lawyers will then get involved and convince or talk or negotiate with the insurance company about your health and about your plan for the future. And I think that's great. My hat is off. I applaud Dr. Benati and all the staff there at the Benati Spine Institute for recognizing that. Because they don't just say, well, I'm sorry you're not covered, go away, next, which is kind of how most everybody else does it. They say, look, we're having to have a conversation with your insurance company. Why don't you go get some lunch? There's a great restaurant down the street, and come back and we'll tell you where we are with them. But they treat you as if they are your friend and you are their friend. And that's important. If you have an oncologist who treats you that way, hang on to them.
Yeah. And also, just in my opinion with things, I think that finding an oncologist that you can speak directly with, that you can have out-of-the-box conversations, and that they take time for you. What I've noticed more and more, especially this second go around that we're dealing with things, is that the doctor does not want to take time. They're more interested in the next person in the room, looking at me and making sure that I hit whatever they need to hit with the chart, and then they're on to the next. They're not interested in how, when, where, what, why, and they're not interested in explaining things. They want you, in my opinion, and I'm dealing with this right now because I'm toying with switching doctors, is that I'm dealing with a situation to where I have a doctor that just doesn't like it if you ask questions. So anyway, I don't want it to be all about standard of care, because I think that one of the things that we're talking about is that what are the things that I did and that we did to help turn it around. So I said, the first episode is that know your cancer and know what your cancer likes and doesn't like, and raise your DNA to where it's a fighting machine again.
Your immune system.
Yep. And so we obviously know these are the bullet points, and I want you guys to go in, research. Mine is not going to be the pattern for you, but it'll at least kind of get your brain thinking about things. So immune system boosters, and also things that help fight cancer. Strong vitamin C. You can make natural ivermectin. And ivermectin
This is the time of year to do that, by the way.
Yeah. So you can make natural ivermectin with using grapefruit peels, orange peels, and lemon peels. You can either use all three or a combination of them, depending on if you're on like some heart medicines, they don't want you to take grapefruit, which I have a hard time with that because the cancer medicine I'm on was on, not now. Anyway, you can take the peel, put some water on the stove, and make a tea out of it. You kind of boil it for about 30 minutes and then let it cool, and then put it in some little small, either like small mason jars or something like that, and you can go in and have one for the week and then sip on it and take about a shot a day, shot glass. And that's supposed to be a natural ivermectin, and that's supposed to help your body fight off disease. Zinc is another one that you really want to have in your corner. It's a natural immune booster.
This is a tablet you can get?
And you put it under your tongue. I learned that from my grandpa. Put it under your tongue and let it dissolve there.
Sublingual?
Yeah, but it can also just be a regular tablet if you can tolerate it. It doesn't have to be sublingual, but you're going to get it stronger there. Or you can stick it up here in the top of your gums, kind of like suckers used to be back in the day. Another important thing is magnesium, and that should be taken at night. And what the biggest thing that you want to do is keep your gut health in check. And gut health means that you should be going to the bathroom multiple times a day. I know I have issues with that, especially after, menopause. It's become harder and harder. So finding magnesium, most women are magnesium deficient. And so therefore you want to bring your magnesium up to at least 1,000 milligrams and take it at night. You absorb things better at night. You have a less chance of getting nauseated and sick from it.
We were doing a magnesium spray too, like after you take a shower, after you take a bath, dry off, and then kind of.
But put it on your bottom of your feet. Absorbs more than anything, believe it or not.
Yes, but it's slippery when you do that. I know.
Right.
So if you can spray it on the bottom of your feet and keep your feet up for 10 minutes, great. But if you spray it on the bottom of your feet and then you want to walk out of the room, I don't recommend it. Not so good.
Okay, so magnesium, you got to get your potassium up, and don't eat high carb potassium. So that means like bananas are probably not the best. Get your potassium out of nuts.
Like Brazil nuts and cashews and almonds and.
Yeah, pecans and stuff like that. Brazil nuts are supposed to be the perfect nut. You're supposed to eat
4 a day?
4 a day, 4 Brazil nuts a day. So learn to try and eat a handful of things. Also think about the things that you're eating is going to help your guts. Pumpkin seeds are a natural colon cleanse. I need to get back into eating those. It's pumpkin. It's
the right time of season.
Right time of season for that.
All the grapefruits and all that kind of stuff. They're happening right now.
And
so
I do have to say this is that we're thankful that we live in a time that we can get seasonal things pretty much all year long. However, I feel that God made things seasonally because that's when the time that we should be eating them. So you want to eat more vitamin C in the fall and the winter because the body needs it, and it's like vitamin D. One of the scientists that we spoke with when we first were diagnosed in 2019 was Dr. Slayman, and he said, Alicia, you could take as much vitamin D3 as you want. I try to take
a boxcar, I think he said. Yeah. You could take a boxcar full of vitamin D tablets. So I'm sorry.
And it's still not enough. So he suggested to sit outside for 30 minutes a day, 3 times a week to get to have a reset in the body and get enough D3.
Vitamin D3, yeah. Just by going outside. He says you get more in 20 minutes sitting outside in a short sleeve shirt or a tank top than you will in a whole bottle of vitamin D. So that's important to know. Interesting to note that for the last 40 years, the cancer industry has been telling people to what? Stay out of the sun.
Yeah, use sunblock.
So building your immune system is it's as important, I think, for your regular health.
Yep.
Building and maintaining a hardworking immune system is, in my opinion, even more important than weakening your cancer. If you do one, the other, if you build your immune system, your cancer is going to panic anyway. But you have to do both things at the same time. You have to do things like we talked about initially, do things that weaken your cancer while strengthening your immune system. If you weaken your cancer and destroy your immune system, what's going to happen? Cancer is going to be above, right? Cancer is going to be winning. My opinion, not a doctor, obviously, or I wouldn't be sniffling like this. But my opinion is that when you do the standard of care for cancer, you are weakening your cancer, but you're doing nothing to help your immune system. In fact, you're doing a whole lot of things to weaken it, which is why people, their skin goes bad, their hair goes bad, their eyes go bad. I mean, all kinds of things happen when you deplete your immune system.
Yep.
You must not do that. And everybody's different. So figure out, there's, what was that book, Eat Right for Your Type, and all kinds of stuff. Land on something that you know, and you'll know if your immune system is getting stronger because you will feel better, okay? Land on some sort of a diet, some sort of a habit, some sort of a ritual that you know is building your immune system. Do that first,
Yep.
okay? Because who knows, it may be, you may have cancer, not because this is strong, but because something has happened in your lifestyle to weaken your immune system.
Yep. Could be a trauma, could be stress, could be all
Yeah.
kinds of things that have changed the
balance.
Yep. Another thing to research and look at is infrared. I think we mentioned it the first time, but we haven't really chatted about what infrared does. So infrared is part of the light therapy, and it is a heat therapy that's not heat that's coming on top of you. It actually heats from the inside out. So it will, when
But it's not a microwave.
right, it's not a microwave, but it will heat up a room, not from throwing heat into it, but raising the temperature of the room to where like the wood and everything will vibrate at the same level. Well, the one thing that cancer doesn't like is heat. And what we've been researching is that, and infrared therapy has been used in Europe and abroad for a long time. It's just over the last 20 years seeing leaps and bounds in the United States. You see it in more adjunct therapy places. So that's one thing in your arsenal that you really should have is an infrared
They
medicinal.
have yoga places that do, they use infrared for heat. Not the hot yoga thing. There's places that actually use infrared heat. You've been a fan of infrared heat since we met.
Yeah, well, long before that. I've been a fan of him.
Well, but I didn't know you before we met.
No, but I've been a fan of infrared since 2005 when I started doing research about it, long before any of this stuff was on my radar, hence the reason I feel that God put that in my path. So I'm a big firm believer in infrared therapy. I'm also a firm believer in raising your heartbeat up to 150 in my case. 3
How do you do that? Treadmill?
I just walk on a treadmill or walk in the yard with, little 3-pound weights intermittently. I might do 2 minutes and put the weights down and walk for a little bit. And what you want to do is just constantly shock the system. So you raise your heartbeat up, then let it drop down. Raise it up, let it drop down. And you do that for like 30 minutes.
It's like interval. We used to call it interval training.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing. Good habit. We're talking about habits to get into. Building your immune system. The ivermectin with the rinds from grapefruit and orange and not apple, grapefruit, orange and lemon. You have to get into it. It has to be intentional. I think is basically what we are saying is. I believe if you put your health in the hands of someone else in a white lab coat, and you expect them to be your savior, you will be sorely disappointed, and they will have another patient after you die.
Yeah, I hate to sound like that.
Hate to, but you are your patient.
Yep, and you're going to be your biggest advocate. This is where I think where we get stuck is that the doctor should be working for you, and you need to be working for yourself to ask the right kind of questions, to push the envelope, because you value yourself more than what the doctor doesn't have time to put as much value in you as you need to put value in yourself, right?
Right. And again, we're not saying terrible things about doctors. We understand doctors have lots of patients.
Yep.
Okay.
And also
You have one patient.
correct.
You.
Yep. What's some other things that we do? Infrared. Oh, hyperbaric chambers. Those are starting to become a little bit more of the norm now.
Great with healing, great for your immune system, right?
Yep. Great about putting oxygen in the body. And the more oxygen you have in the body, the better your body can fight. That's a big thing, is getting oxygen into the body.
I use, got it from the Bellamy's. You can get oxygen in a can at CVS. I think you can get it at CVS. And one day I was driving to Florida. I had just put on 8 hours and I had 10 more hours to go, and I was tired. So rather than pump my system full of Red Bull and coffee as I was driving down the street, I had this little oxygen thing, and when I'd feel tired, I'd take a little hit off my little oxygen bottle, and I got there. It was fine.
Right.
And it was great. So you have to be your own biggest advocate. You have to learn your body. You have to learn what it likes, and while you're doing that, be honest with yourself and try to figure out what it was that caused your cancer to get stronger. You know, what have you done? How much sugar do you eat?
That's a big one.
Right? How was 150 years ago or 100 years ago, people ate how much sugar a year?
5 pounds a year.
Average non-obese person. And
Yeah.
what about this year?
A non-obese person will eat 150 pounds in a year.
150
Non-obese.
pounds of sugar. And what is cancer's favorite food?
Sugar. Regardless if it's white sugar, honey, whatever, its favorite thing is sugar. And so learning those kind of things, you know, I do think that at the end of the day, that if you like potatoes, we found out from Karis that one of the things is that if you like potatoes, boil them first, put them in the fridge, let them cool down, and then go back and either fry them or heat them
Eat
or
them
whatnot.
right out of the fridge, right?
Or
I love
cold.
them. Eat them like an apple.
Right? But the thing is that it changed the makeup of how sugar is taken into the body if you boil, and then put them in the fridge. And then if you came back and pan fried them and whatnot and made them with your eggs, you're in a better position if they're done that way first. If you just fry them, you're gonna have a higher glycemic spike. And the cool thing about the internet nowadays is that you can kind of research this stuff at your fingertips. You know, you don't have to spend a lot of time on stuff like this. So that's one of our new hints, is the potato thing. And that was
It's a great snack. Mm-hmm. Okay. Anything
Wait.
else here?
Well, wait.
Wait, there's more.
Oh, don't make me forget. So we did hyperbaric. We did.
Infrared.
Oh, another thing a couple things that people might feel uncomfortable about, but getting back to gut health, one, you need a good probiotic. And if you can drink a probiotic on a daily basis, do it. Also, juicing, finding out what type of juice works for your cancer. Mine is celery, which reminds me when I go into Baton Rouge today, I'm going to go get
Gonna get some celery.
Yeah. But research doing colonics, and that's whenever they go in and they flush your body with warm saline water to help get out gunk out of your guts. Another thing to focus
Now,
on.
your oncologist will be against that.
Yep.
Tell you that right off the bat.
Mine did. And the sad thing is that I've been doing colonics long before I was diagnosed, and about a decade before I was diagnosed. And I trust the person that I've been doing colonics with more than I trust the doctor. And they put doubt and fear, the doctor did, when I said I'm going to do colonics. And I'm glad that I do it, because I feel that that's how my body has been able to take the pressure off the guts and allow me to get rid of waste and allow the body to focus on healing as opposed to getting waste out of the body. And
Simply put, anything that you don't eliminate rots
in your gut,
and then ferments,
in your gut.
and then all those gases come up through all of your organs and cause dis-ease.
Correct.
They will tell you that they don't want you to do colonics because it'll get rid of all the good bugs as well as all the bad stuff. Well, I believe that there is something to that. However, our body is constantly making antibodies. It's constantly making things to help us live and live better and live longer.
Also, probiotics help with that too.
Right, help with that as well. So as long as you are doing things like you do the yogurt, you do that drink, what is that,
Kefir. So don't get confused with, all yogurts are not the same. So you want one that's like a Greek, not with the syrupy stuff in it, like what
not
you,
sugar.
right, like what you ate last night.
That's because someone bought it and put it in the refrigerator.
I did not.
I did not.
I know someone else did. But Greek yogurt and kefir is, you can have that one that has a little bit of a flavor taste to it. Kefir's not the same as regular yogurt. Kefir has probiotics in it, and it really helps gut health. So does Greek yogurt. Greek yogurt in the non-sugar form also helps. Blueberries help, believe it or not. Those are one of the better superfoods to eat. Another thing to look at and research is coffee enemas. Coffee enemas help with, you can do them on your own. I don't know if you remember this, but like my grandma always
Do them on your own.
had like a bag in her bathroom, and they douched back then. Or if you were constipated, they used the same sort of thing to help cause relief with
That was
constipation.
my grandmother's cure for everything. She would say that, and we talked about that this morning.
Castor oil.
Castor oil and a mustard plaster, whatever that is. You know, it was very simple. Our grandparents were not, they didn't have all this information, and they were right.
Yep.
You know, the more we...
Oh, you can do a mustard seed bath. There's a formula for that too.
A mustard seed bath?
Yep, and it's supposed
It's
to
biblical.
be. Yes, and it's better for you than doing an Epsom salt. Epsom salt is
like a scrub?
you just sit there. You can Google it and just say mustard seed bath, and it'll come up with the formula on it. But it's just plain old mustard seeds and a couple of other herbs, and you make a bath out of it. Just like an Epsom salt. With Epsom salt, though, it's drying your body out, so you have to put more hydration in. The mustard seed's supposed to be better on you. But coffee enemas, this is a thing that I've learned about this, is that it helps with bile, and it helps with the liver, believe it or not. And so your guts are your second brain. And it has a lot of nerves and stuff. And your guts also deal with your serotonin levels. I found that out because I'm taking a lot of nerve pain because of the back injuries. And so it slowed down my guts. And so I'm having to activate my guts more by taking magnesium, by doing the colonics. I'm about to embrace the coffee enema. I've resisted those. I've known about them for 20 years. I've never done one, about to get busy and do one. But
It also helps with fatigue, right? Because it's caffeine.
But the
it's
big
caffeine.
thing is the bile.
Better than a Red Bull. Gosh.
The biggest thing, though, is bile, and it helps you with bile. And bile is part of waste, and it comes from the liver. And this I also find very interesting, that like when my grandmother was alive, the doctors back then, this was probably 30, 40 years ago, convinced that she was a drinker. My grandmother rarely drank, and if she did, it was a Pabst Blue Ribbon that was a pony. A pony. And she would drink one, and that was after she shrimped or fished. And so, but they were like, and my grandfather would pound it. My grandfather was definitely a drinker. And the doctors were convinced that she was, and it's because her pancreas was producing actively like an alcoholic. And the pancreas is something that we've learned through Dr. Newsom, who's somebody I think that you should follow on YouTube and on Facebook.
Newsom.
N-U-Z-U-M, Newsom.
Oh, Newsom. How do you spell it?
N-U-Z-U-M, Newsom.
Newsom.
Yep. Really.
He's in Idaho?
I'm not
He's out there. He's out there
doesn't matter.
somewhere.
He's
great.
on Facebook and he's on YouTube. Follow him. He's
Pancreatic
always,
enzymes. We're just now learning more about those.
So originally pancreatic enzymes.
And we have to wrap this up.
Yeah, but pancreatic enzymes came from a doctor that Dr. Gonzalez stumbled on that had been hidden knowledge. There's also the Collins oil.
Toxins, Collins toxins.
Yeah, there's a bunch of things that were discovered around the early turn of the century, not this century.
Century ago.
Right, 120 something years ago. And
122.
when the FDA came in, they kind of suppressed all these cures. Anyway, pancreatic enzymes are kind of like, your pancreas is your traffic cop. And it's kind of like in New York, you know, they have 5 intersections coming at one, they have one traffic cop, and they're trying to tell everybody where to go. That's what the pancreas does.
They don't do that anymore.
Well, sometimes they do.
Okay.
In Brooklyn, they do. Anyway. What that does, though, is that the pancreas, when it's functioning well, tells things where to go. Liver, do this, you know, stomach, do this, and blah, blah, blah. Well, when that's all screwy, then you can have overproduction of bile. There's a lot of things that the body will start secreting, which also can be leaked into the system, which is not good for us. So pancreatic enzymes, that's one of the things I'm going to speak to the oncologist about today, because I'm having an issue taking mine. I'm getting to where I get an acidic tummy from taking them. So I'm going to talk to the oncologist and see, my compounding oncologist, to see if there's something new or a new way to take them that is just as effective.
Right.
Right?
So see, it's an education. You have to do it all the time. Right?
And it's ever changing, correct?
Keep your eyes open, keep your ears open for somebody. You know, you're at a restaurant. Somebody's talking about pancreatic enzymes. Go, what? What was that? E.F. Hutton?
Huh?
Do that and learn, and then come up with your system for you, and then be open to new things. But don't just change every day.
Oh.
And we're going to talk about that next week. We're going to talk about well-meaning, not going to call them enemies, but folks are well-meaning, but they actually wind up being confusing to people and cause you to. It's kind of like friendly fire. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about that when we meet back up again, and we'll talk about pancreatic enzymes, right? Because you'll be taking them.
Yeah, it may not be next week. I may want to do one on.
It may be a couple of weeks.
Or Tuesday. You'll be back.
Tuesday?
Morning. We could do a Tuesday morning one.
We have to get more educated between now and then.
I'm still trying
You're
to bring
fairly
everybody.
educated?
Yeah, I'm still trying to bring everyone up to speed.
She's fairly educated now.
And hitting the beats, so that way we can help inform you. Again, patient advocate, start building your lifeboat, and you know, interviewing your doctors, figuring out who's going to be your bestie, whether it's your husband, your sister, your neighbor across the street, but whoever that patient advocate is, other than yourself, you need to have that partner.
Yep, absolutely.
Right.
All right. Say goodnight, Gracie.
Good night, Gracie.
I knew she was going to do that. I have to walk around. I feel like a newsman. I've got my shorts on. Oh!
Is that what the news people do?
They do. They don't. If you don't see their pants, they don't wind up wearing them.
What do? Walk around in their underwear?
No, in shorts like I have on now. Okay, where's off? Goodbye, everybody. I can't find off. There's an X. Maybe that's it. I want to stop streaming. Bye.